Oh my God, we're so excited to have you. Welcome Team Galaxy to the stage.
Thanks for having us. Thank you for having us.
So we really wanted to talk to you guys about your experience. You've been on our team for a while now, and we wanted to talk about the truth of long-term relationships with brands. You guys ready?
Yes.
Amazing. All right. So first of all, for those of who are watching on the live stream and some people in the room, could you tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got started on Team Galaxy?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Olive Manella. I've been with Team Galaxy for almost 2 years, so it has been so much fun just being a part of this team. And yeah, I've just been creating content actually for only 3 years with my family. It's been really fun. I get to make videos with them, so I'm really grateful to be a part of Team Galaxy and get to use such amazing technology to capture that. Because as creators, that's what we do.
And we love seeing you guys. So fun.
Yeah, I'm Samir, one half of Colin and Samir. And
I'm Colin.
That's Colin. Been with Team Galaxy, this is year 3 now. First connected with Samsung back in early 2020. Colin and I were exploring making documentaries and looking at ways to have lighter weight production setups. And we just naturally connected with Samsung and started using their devices to capture documentary content. And ever since then, we've been on Team Galaxy.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that at the time, Samsung was so early in terms of supporting creators, and that was something that Samir and I recognized, and something that we just voiced even on our channel that we wanted to be a part of it. And Samsung reached out and started inviting us to events, and that's kind of how the relationship started.
Yeah, I think before it was called the creator economy.
Right.
And I think that was important to us, that there was a brand out there that saw us, that recognized us.
Also,
Amazing.
yeah. And now we're a podcast, so we can talk all day. May have to stop.
We got to pass the mic, yeah.
I'm Stephanie. I've been making content for 6 years now, and I love that you say long-term relationship with Samsung, because for me, I had the very first Galaxy S back in 2010. And when I started talking to Samsung, for me, it was oh my God, my crush is talking to me. They noticed me. So it's been great. We've been together for 2 years now, and I'm very happy.
Things are getting very serious.
Yes, we're really serious now.
We love you too.
Love you.
I'm Aral Tasher. I'm actually a full-time UX engineer and a content creator on the side as well. I've been with Samsung Galaxy team for roughly about 2 years now. As a UX engineer, I'm just very passionate about thoughtful products. Product design is a big passion for me. So just happy to educate my audience on just the thoughtful products that Samsung's been putting out lately. So.
Amazing. And we've been together for 2 years collectively, but you guys have been creators for a while now. And I know about 5 years ago, the landscape was completely different. If you were able to speak to yourself 5 years ago in the mindset of a content creator, what would you tell yourself 5 years ago?
Yeah. Like I said, I've been doing this for 3 years, but if I could talk to myself at the beginning when I first started creating videos, because I first started creating on TikTok when TikTok first kind of was getting really big, I would tell myself to just make more content, honestly. I look back at that time and I was getting, some views on my videos, and I was thinking, all right, this is what everyone wants, and I have to do it perfectly, and what if they don't like this? I was really in my head about it, and I look at the world of creating now, and I'm like, wait, there's no such thing as mistakes. You can, it's rough, but you know what I mean? If you're really just trying to be creative and you're trying to put things out there, just try stuff, and I wish I would have posted a lot more and just tried more things and really interacted a lot more with some of my followers at the very beginning, because I was a little bit in my head at the beginning, and now I'm looking at that time and I was like, whoa, there was a lot of eyes on me. That would have been cool to just go for it,
Right. Where would you be today, right? If you started trying
Exactly.
at that time, right?
Yeah, I would say when you're first starting out as a creator, a lot of times you operate from a space of scarcity. Everything feels scarce. Your viewership is scarce. Good ideas sometimes are scarce. Revenue is scarce. And that can have you operate from a space of fear. And I would say that, as I look back, I think I would give myself the advice to take a deep breath and recognize that it's a very long career. And if you're committed to the career of being a creative and solving creative problems, like, you will find a way. It's not so much in these like tight windows that feel very scary of like, I'm not figuring it out. My financial situation isn't great. My viewership isn't great. Like, those situations can feel very scary. And I think if you are committed to the career, you can kind of relax and look at it on a much more long-term basis.
That's incredible. That's great advice.
Yeah, I'm reminded of a question that Drew, who's sitting in the front row and a member of Team Galaxy, asked me last night. He said, what do you see for yourself in 5 years? What's your 5-year plan looking forward? And I thought to myself, like, I actually have no idea who I'm going to be in 5 years or what I'm going to like and what I'm going to want. And I wish I would have told myself that 5 years ago when I was starting out, that you don't know exactly what it's going to be like to be a creator. You can think all day of this is where I want to go, but you're going to change so much. This business is about you expressing yourself and your individuality, and that's something that's going to change. So don't try super hard to stick to a script, because that script is going to change.
Right. We all evolve as people, right? So as a creator, you're going to show up different. That's amazing.
I would tell Stephanie from 5 years ago, I'd be like, girl, you're doing okay. Calm down. Because I didn't enjoy the process. I was churning out content, really stressed out, posting twice a day on Instagram, a video a month on YouTube. Did not enjoy it. And I was doing great. I was doing great content. I was just too stressed about churning out content and the numbers and comparing myself. So I would just go back and be like, you're doing amazing. And just keep doing what you're doing. Just enjoy the process. It's just the journey. That's what I would tell her.
That's amazing.
I guess I would say it's okay to fail. Marquez was talking about, the content you put out and then the content you watch and the gap between it. I feel like 5 years ago, I was just watching all these high quality content and I wasn't producing enough at that quality. So that was a big barrier for me, that I wasn't pushing out my content. And, not pushing out content also made me not get better. So I would say just it's okay to fail. Just push out and trust the process, and you'll get better on the as you practice.
Press publish, right?
Sure. A little merch plug, sure.
I love it. So let's talk about what it's like to work with a brand. Now, in general, if, we won't take it personal, we just really want to hear from you and from your experience, and for those viewers online who are exploring potential brand partnerships and just kind of like writing their rule book for what they want after everything they've learned the last couple of days. What is the truth, and in your experience, what's it been like to work with a brand? Farrell?
Personally, for me, it's been like the Wild West. You never know what you're going to get with each brand. So you got to be cautious when you're partnering out with people, let alone long-term partnerships. I think the difference between the Team Galaxy and every other brand that I've worked with is they truly kind of want to help you get better as they get better too. So it's a complete partnership. I've had other collaborations in the past where it was just, some statistics. You were just, KPIs or, engagements to that brand. And that just doesn't work in the long term. So try to seek for, a nurturing partnership where you're both, it's a win-win-win situation.
Amazing. Stephanie?
Well, I think I'm learning a lot. I think this year I feel like I'm evolving, I'm changing. And I started being very conscious about the briefs, and I wanted to meet every single bullet point and please the client so much. And now I'm understanding that I can be more creative. I can be like, no, actually, I think this is better for my audience. I think I know what I'm doing. And I think I'm sorry, what was the question?
Your truthful experience of working with a brand, and we won't take it personal.
Thank you. Sorry. My truthful experience is that it's just being I'm under this. It has to be this back and forth conversation, and I've been evolving, and I've been a people pleaser, and now I'm actually let's talk about it. How about this idea? And right now my experience is absolutely great with Samsung actually, because it's been a conversation, and I feel like I'm being heard, and they're liking my wacky ideas, so I'm really happy. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I think that's my experience as well. Just over the years, realizing that, you really can open the lines of communication. It is a true business partnership. So you want to make sure that as the creator, you're understanding what value you provide to the brand. And just like creators can evolve, brands can evolve. And it's important to keep up communication so that we can make sure that, we're supporting the brand and they're supporting us.
Yeah, I think the thing that I say to a lot of creators is like, okay, if you're working with a brand and they're paying you, there's a financial transaction happening. That means that there's a product that's being sold, right? What's the product? Is the product the video? Is the product the viewership, the engagement? Is the product the traffic? In my opinion, actually, if you zoom out, is that the product that we sell as creators is authentic access to our community. But in order to do that, that's built on a foundation of trust. So as you're developing as a creator, like what you are actually building as a product is trust. And that's trust between you and your audience that you are actually going to deliver the value that they come to you for. And then as you turn to a brand, they're working with you to access that trust and access that community. And so you have to deeply trust that brand and make sure that they actually honor you and your relationship with your community. And then that brand has to trust you too, that you recognize and understand why they're trying to access your community. So I would say that like the whole thing is predicated on trust. And as a creator, you should deeply understand and communicate with both your audience and the brand to make sure that this is a comfortable relationship, that you're introducing this brand over here to your closest people. And like, if you think about introducing someone into your close group of friends, you wouldn't do it unless you really felt confident about it, right? And you knew them really well. And all of that is built on trust. And once you break that trust, it's very hard to build it back. So I'd say the whole thing is built on trust. And in 10 years of working with brands, anytime that we've broken trust or felt like maybe we're on the precipice of that, that's where we have to catch ourselves and be like, hey, let's have an honest conversation here.
And I think that's what's really unique about Samsung. They really do value you as a creator in the sense that like now there's like faces to Samsung. Like like when I think of Samsung, I now think of like Simon and Janet. Like I just think of everybody here, and I can actually have like a personal relationship with the brand versus just thinking of like, oh, Mr. Samsung, and sometimes with brands,
You have calls with Mr. Samsung.
Mr. Samsung.
not
I just got off
yet.
the line. Yeah.
No, but seriously, because you'll work with brands all the time, and there's just not that level of person, like right now I'm just talking to you, and it's really cool to get to create content. It motivates me as a creator because yes, I love the products, but I also just love the people. Like I get so excited. I'm like, all right, I want to please them. I want them to like it. I want my audience to like it as well, but I really do just want to make everyone happy. So I kind of think about it as there's a level of compromise. You're not always going to be 100% exactly the content that you'd make on your own, but you're probably not exactly making the content that the brand would have expected you to make. So it's this kind of beautiful way of the human experience of just taking the best you can give and what they're willing to take and putting it out there and hoping that your community resonates with it and they feel good about it too,
That long-term relationship, I think it's paying off for us.
No, absolutely. I think that really sets Samsung apart from any other brand I've ever worked with, for sure.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. Like, I think that making sure that as you go out to create, that it is yours, like you as the creator, you make sure, like what you were mentioning, that you do have a voice in the matter, right? And that you should have the voice. That is why, a brand like Samsung is working with creators because we all have our own unique voices. So, when they bring us something, it's like we have to digest it and be like, okay, how does this work in our world? And then come back to them. And again, that's built on trust, where it's like they trust that we'll hear them and they'll hear us. And but yeah, I just want to urge, if you're a creator and you're looking to work with brands, like they're coming to you because it's you. There's a lot of production companies out there that can make a video, but they're coming to you for you.
Amazing. And then, during our relationship, in relationships in general, there's always that pivotal moment in which you kind of have to, make decisions and kind of stand your ground and make sure that you kind of check back in with yourself and your values. Can you think of a moment with any brand, doesn't have to be Samsung, maybe that you had to kind of speak up for yourself and say, here's how I would deliver on your balance, but I don't think I can go that far because that's not truthful to my audience and they're not going to trust me and I'm not willing to risk that. Can you think of a moment in the past?
Colin and I were in a fragrance commercial one time.
Oh, that's way too far back.
Too much?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, wow.
That one almost broke us. Yeah.
Yeah. We had to act as like cool high school jocks
Yeah.
for a fragrance company.
It was hard.
And none of the lines were our own.
Yeah.
And I hope no one ever sees it and it's not on the internet.
No one looked for it.
Now they will.
Yeah, it's a
I have a
fragrance.
feeling it's going to spike.
Yeah, don't look for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one's like purely a deal we did because, again, back when you're starting out as a creator, like there's scarcity. Like, how are you going to make rent? Well, you're going to promote these fragrances. That's how. And I remember that feeling, though. Like, you can never shake that feeling. This is 6-7 years ago now, maybe 8 years ago. I can't shake it. Like, I can remember everything about standing there and filming that spot.
Not me. I erased it out of my brain.
He's erased it.
gone.
But it's hard to not be yourself. Like if we were capable of doing that, we'd go be actors.
Exactly. We're not actors.
We're not actors. It's hard. So like when you're starting out, it might feel like you're like, oh, I could do this. I could pretend for a day. But again, like I'll just keep coming back to trust. You lose the whole thing. Like it all falls if you aren't just being yourself. Or like if you just aren't tapping into like, does this feel good or not? Did I just do this because they paid me? Yeah, because I don't even wear a fragrance, if I'm being honest. Yeah, this is all natural. Yeah, if you smelled me today.
Did you have like a skateboard and a backwards hat and we're like, hey kids?
No, it was worse. It was worse than that.
Worse
Just
than
don't.
that.
Yeah,
It
don't
was like
look
a
it up.
muscle shirt that I couldn't even fill out, and it was
bad.
It was bad. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm glad you found your way back. So glad.
I think too, like what's difficult is when the brand sometimes tells you, oh, I want you to be authentic. Like, I want you to do this. And then you'll make content and you'll send it to them. They're like, yeah, that's really good. But could you also just like say this? And then they just put a whole script of everything they want you to say and like tell you everything you want to wear. And you're like, yeah, yes. Like you have this almost like internal like moment where you're like, do I do that? Like, well, how do I make them happy? But yeah, also maybe not completely jeopardize my identity with my community here. Yeah. So it's a balancing act, I think, for sure. But yeah, there's definitely times where, like, I remember recently, because for those of you who don't know, I do with content with my parents. There's this bit that I do with my family where whenever I say the word dinosaur, my dad starts like destroying food or whatever's in front of him. And there was an instance where we had a brand that was like, "Oh, here, promote this thing." It was this thing for like your phone, and it would basically say if it was like a spam call or something, and they were like, "Oh yeah, could you just do this?" And it was this little acting bit or whatever. And they're like, "Yeah, but like, could you like do dinosaur too?" And we're like, "Wait, what?" Like, we're like, this is not what we were told at the beginning, you know? So sometimes there's those moments where you're like, all right, how do I make them happy? But also, to what extent do I go? Because I
when
don't
do you make a
wanna-
call?
Right, you're right, exactly. So yeah, there's definitely been times where we were like, you know, maybe not.
Well, and one way I found, first of all, I'm going to find that video. But second,
And share.
I really want to see that.
I want to see that video. A way around to doing that, sometimes I'm like, okay, I can say that, but can we just reword the whole thing? Let me use my own words. And they're going to be very simple words because that's my vocabulary. I have like 20 words I use. But yeah, it's sometimes like that's a hack around that, I think. And usually it works.
Yeah, I think it's all about the compromise and the communication between you and the brand, and also knowing your own audience, knowing what they're expecting of you. So, you know, when that happens for me, where I'm like, okay, is this something I would do on my own? And if the answer is like no, I'm like, I'm sorry guys, but I have to push back. Let's try something else. You know, so you fall in those situations where sometimes you have to push back. And if it's a true partnership, the brand is willing to listen to you and your ways and kind of have you have the voice and a little bit of the creative control of that product that you're putting out.
I also wanted to add that, when Colin and I jumped into being, this version of our creator selves, Colin and Samir, we jumped with no plan and no foundation of, income or revenue. And so coming from that position, we kind of had to say yes to everything. And I think we're really lucky to have the perspective of interviewing a lot of creators. And there's something that will always stick in my mind from an interview we did where a creator said to us, "You are what you say no to." And I think putting yourself in the position to say no is so important. So that might mean if you're just getting started as a creator, don't quit your day job yet. And not because you don't want to go all in, but so that you can say no and you can be really selective with what you say yes to. I think that's a really important thing, is that you are what you say no to.
That's so great. And so for you to be able to say no to something, you have to have some pretty well defined values and certain filters, right? And you guys obviously have to develop that on the go. You had your foundation, but they have changed along the time. So what would you tell, the viewers and those who are thinking about, kind of taking the leap? What's some of the advice in that process of defining your values and defining the space, and when does, when not to cross those boundaries?
I can start.
Sure.
Unless you want to start, Olive. Okay.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, sure. I think that comes from an incredibly deep understanding of your audience, who you are creating for, and why they are watching. The first thing that Colin and I do is even, when we make a piece of content, we say, who is this for? Okay, great. Now we kind of know who it's for. Why are they watching? What is their transformation? Because we're asking people to invest time. And if they're investing time with us, then they should get a return on that investment. What is that return, right? And so that's number one. From there, we can kind of develop a set of values. So for us, as we started to develop into our show and what we were making on our channel, it's like, we want to educate and empower the next generation of creators, right? So education should be there, inspiration, a feeling of community, or a feeling of, kind of creators feeling less alone and feeling seen. So every piece of content, we need to go filter through those. And if we watch it back and it's not delivering on that, we're not afraid to can the episode, right? And be like, it's not it. It's not delivering. And that, I think, again, builds that trust of like, you come to us, you click on one of our videos, you're going to leave educated, inspired, and with more tools to go pursue your own creator journey. And if you don't feel like that, then people let us know, and then we have to adjust. And then we look for brands that fall into that same category, right? Who else is trying to do that with creators? That's the people we'll partner with, because there's a natural fit there.
Yeah, I also think that it's really important to understand that metrics can often cloud what your values are. So you can put out a piece of content and it can do really well for a reason that is not necessarily what you intended. So I think it's important to take a step back from platforms, take a step back from the algorithms, and look at your everyday life and understand what value are you providing to a community, and what joy does that bring you as well. I mean, even like last night, Samir and I were with Ben and Caleb, and we were talking to them about helping them negotiate their deals or get paid on time. And it was like one of the most energizing conversations we had. And, like for us, that's
This guy
kind of,
loves accounting.
yeah, I mean, mainly, I just love accounting. But like, no, we really like took a step back and we were like, that's what we love to do. And that's even what helped us understand what we wanted to talk about on our channel. Samir and I would get together and have a coffee and talk about creators and the behind the scenes of the industry. And the energy we had in real life showed us, okay, this is what we want to do online.
We need you on the next SGCC to talk about accounting to all the creators online in the room.
Yeah.
We can't wait to hear
400
it.
late invoices to Colin.
I think too, something my biggest inspiration of my life is my dad. I look up to him so much. I just think the world of him. And I'm lucky enough that he also is a creator and he loves creating too. So we get to create together. But something he really taught me that I think you kind of reminded me of it, is that when you're creating, right, I think there's this thing sometimes where maybe there's something I love, right? And I want to create about and I want to post about. but it's not necessarily what other people want to hear from me, right? And I think something that my dad taught me, but I've also learned through creating for others is like, what does my audience want from me? Maybe it's not always the thing I want to make today. Maybe it's not the thing I always feel like, oh, like I want to, do this. I want to show my cooking video, but they want to see, me crying in my room about and having a mental breakdown. Maybe it's not the thing that I really want to share with others, but they really resonate with it. And they feel very, close to that. And they're like, I relate to that a lot. And so then I realize my voice becomes something that is something I can share with the world and I can share with others. And it makes, maybe it's just one person, but maybe it brings them joy that day or it teaches them something. And I think sometimes content can be something where it's like, how can other people fill me up? But I've really learned from my dad and from other creators like you guys, like, how can I share and give to the world and use this platform as a means of actually trying to make the world a better place in some capacity, even if it's just entertainment value for that day? How can I give? And I think when I switched my mindset to being more about giving versus receiving or taking, my content completely changed. Like it started being for this like higher purpose. And I think that's where the value comes in, is I realized, oh, like my values are about how can I give to the world and what does that look like today? And maybe it is more like trying things out and seeing what works and seeing what people like and seeing what people resonate with. But yeah, I think it always comes back to that authenticity of who you are as a person and staying true to that. And yeah, if that means saying no to brands, like I've said no to plenty brands that don't align with who I am as a person. And I'm like, we go our separate ways and that's all right. That's okay to say no to if it doesn't fit with who you are as an individual.
For me, well, I've also said no a lot, but because it's a good and a bad thing. At first, I was like, my content is just tech, and people come to see my content, to see programming and software engineering live and all that. But that also made me too narrow, and also skewed my content into content that I didn't really want to create. And it's like that balance of like understanding what people want, but also what I want to make it sustainable, and also not close so many doors as like, well, it is tech, but it's also science, it's engineering. I can talk about like maybe the science behind a face cream and like the chemistry. And so it's like a balance thing. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Evolving values, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to add, because those were some really, really cool answers. I think we also need to remember that it's a process. It just doesn't happen overnight. Like I don't have like a pen and paper. And I'm like, okay, what are my values? And just start writing them down. This happens as you grow as a person, as your audience grows, as your content, evolves too. So just remember that your values will develop as you go through this process. So don't expect to because being on the other side, watching these streams, I remember as a creator, I'm like, wow, those guys have it figured out. They know what's going on. It's not like that. It's a process, and we all go through it, and sometimes we don't know what's going on either. So
I was just talking to, it was my dad about it. I was talking to him, I was like, everyone always knows everything. I feel, we were talking too, like about imposter syndrome. I was like, I don't feel like I really fit in sometimes because I'm like, I don't always know what the answer is. And I think it's giving yourself permission to just not know and make mistakes and learn as you go. Because yeah, that's how you learn, is like life. No one wakes up and knows how to be a human. You learn as you go. And I think that's really important as creators. Like everyone here that's up on stage and everyone we've heard from, like everyone started somewhere. And I think a lot of us are still, I'm still figuring it out. I have no idea. Like,
I don't know anything.
Right?
I don't know anything.
I learned from them. Like coming to these events is so awesome because the amount of things, Aral teaches me something about my phone every time I see him. He's like, Olive, this is how you do that. And I'm like, really? I'm like, that's really cool. Because he's brilliant, So it's an amazing thing to be around other creators who are so smart and have different types of knowledge too.
That's amazing. So it sounds like you start with your personal values, then you move into your business values, and then once you've established those two, then you think about what your values are in relationship to others, to brands and to collaborators and stuff. Speaking of collaborations and Team Galaxy, I know you guys are friends. Like we get together so often that you guys are actually friends. Who have you been dying to work with from Team Galaxy that you have not had the chance to? Because we can set that up. We can make it happen.
Anyone, everyone. I'll collab with anybody.
Everybody?
I'm not lying. Like, I actually, everyone I've met that's part of Team Galaxy is so cool. Like, I have gotten so close to so many of the creators, and I'm always, even if it's something complete, like Alexa does like finance. I was like, let's collab though. Like, I'm like, let's find a way. I'll do it. I don't care, anyone. So if you want to collab with me, I will. But honestly,
I would say
I will.
I would say Ben and now Caleb after spending some time with Caleb. Fantastic frames, right, Ben? Frantic frames. Frantic frames on Instagram. I can just spend hours on Ben's page. I think like it's not that often now with the amount of content that's out there on the internet that you watch something and you're just like enamored by it and have to watch it over and over and over again and can't figure out how it's happening. And I would say Ben's work is that for me. I can spend a lot of time just staring at his stuff. And we were chatting last night about redoing our show intro and stop motion. I think with a new merch drop, exploring like how we can collaborate. But I think what Ben does is just so incredible. So I would love to collaborate with him and Caleb as well.
Yeah, I'm really interested, now that we're more of a podcast and an interview show, I just think there's such a good opportunity to interview and speak with some of the creators. Even, Harry Hudson, who was on stage yesterday, we were talking to him, and he has such an interesting, fascinating story for anyone that was listening. And we're thinking about having him on the show. We also have a Q&A show where we answer questions from creators, and I think Drew is going to submit a question for us to answer. So it's already happening, which is really cool.
Amazing.
Well, I'm with everyone, even though Samir doesn't want to collab with me. Yeah, everyone is great. I feel like I'm learning so much from everyone, and we all come from so different backgrounds and audiences, but we are also really we're kind of connected. We're on the same page on a lot of things, so it just makes sense. Yeah, everyone.
Amazing.
Yeah, and we're not just working, in front of the screen, but behind the scenes as well. Like I'm picking these people's brains all the time, and they're giving me so many cool ideas, whether if it's a business model or it's a creative concept. So we're always collaborating, not in terms of being in front of, being in the content, but behind just the stuff that people don't see too. So we're kind of just helping each other in that aspect as well. But besides that, I've actually had a collaboration with Dustin Poirier last May. He's also a part of Team Galaxy. I was fanboying the whole time. And then they thought it would be a cool idea to put us both in a cage. And I was like, don't want to be here anymore. But it was fun. It was great. He's an awesome guy.
Amazing. That's a note for Simon. So we're so glad you guys found your community here within Team Galaxy. We're so happy to have you. I can't tell you, you gush about us, we gush about you. It's a long-term relationship. We're so happy to have you. Thank you so much for coming to SGCC this year, for taking the time to talk to us, to teach everybody. I'm going to welcome back Simon to the stage so that we can get programming going. Awesome. Thank you so much.